Today's lesson is called GM Mosquitoes, a risky solution to humanity's pest problem. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
My name is Roger, and today we're going to continue talking about GM mosquitoes. We have heard of GM crops, like GM soybeans, which people here in Taiwan don't like too much, so they don't really try to let them imported into Taiwan, genetically modified soybeans. But today we're talking about GM mosquitoes. No, we're not trying to make more of them. We're actually using this technology to reduce their numbers. But is this a risky solution to humanity's pest problem? It sounds like it's too good to be true. Get rid of those nasty mosquitoes so that we can sleep at night without mosquitoes buzzing in our ears or spreading diseases like malaria or the Zika virus, stuff like that. But yeah, it might be risky. We might be messing around with the ecosystem.
There you go. You can release these GM mosquitoes into the environment, and they can reduce mosquito populations over time. They make it so that females won't be able to reproduce. But here's the good thing. If you stop releasing those GM mosquitoes, natural population numbers for mosquitoes in a certain area should rebound or come back. So this whole method is reversible. That's a good thing. It's also pretty cheap. That's a good thing. And you don't have to use pesticides anymore. That's also a good thing. This is a win-win-win. And further, this has already been used in Brazil and the Cayman Islands to great effect, and maybe we can spread this worldwide, the Florida Keys and Africa, and soon humanity's pest problem will be a thing of the past, right? Not necessarily. Today, we'll be looking at the other side of this particular debate and how this solution might just be a risky one. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a short break. Let's go ahead and read the article, and then when we come back, we will discuss the article.
In many ways, introducing GM mosquitoes into the environment seems like an ideal solution for getting rid of one of humanity's most troublesome pests. However, not everyone is convinced that it's a good idea. According to some experts, greatly reducing mosquito populations could have many unforeseen consequences.
各位好，第一部分我们看到单字 troublesome 这个字是形容词，指令人头疼的、令人烦恼的、麻烦的。字尾 some 表示具有某种特质、状态或行为。例如 Mary found it troublesome to walk the big dogs. Mary 觉得要遛大型犬很麻烦。另外补充几个以 some 结尾的形容词。第一 wholesome 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 指健康的、强健的。我们可以说 My mom taught me to live a wholesome life and always do the right thing. 我妈妈要我过着健康的生活，永远做正确的事。第二 bothersome 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 指麻烦的、令人讨厌的。举例来说 Rub this cream on your skin to keep away bothersome insects.擦这款乳液在皮肤上可以驱赶扰人的昆虫。第三 cumbersome 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 意思是笨重的，像是 Carrying this cumbersome package through the metro is going to be quite the ordeal. 携带这个笨重的包裹搭乘地铁真的是一大考验。再来我们看到形容词 unforeseen 指意料之外的、未预见的。举例来说The house was not built on time due to the unforeseen problems with the design. 这栋房子因为意料之外的设计问题而没有如期盖好。
Okay, so as we said, in many ways, introducing GM mosquitoes into the environment seems like an ideal solution. for getting rid of one of humanity's most troublesome pests. Yes, most people can probably agree that mosquitoes are bad news, okay? They are just trouble. They spread diseases. Wouldn't the world be better without them? So yeah, it does seem that GM mosquitoes and releasing them into the environment is a great solution. So if you talk about the environment, we're just talking about the world in general, outside into wild areas, or the environment. I guess that could include human areas as well. Just the world in general in the atmosphere.
Yes, mosquitoes are troublesome. They cause all sorts of trouble. No, they don't rob convenience stores or anything like that, but they do spread disease, like dengue fever, I should say, Zika, malaria, the list goes on and on. So they are quite troublesome. Let's get rid of them, right? We'll all be better off if we do, right? Not necessarily. The next sentence says, however, not everyone is convinced that it's a good idea. So, what are the negatives here? What are the drawbacks here? What are the cons here?
It's a good question, okay? According to some experts, greatly reducing mosquito populations could have many unforeseen consequences.
I didn't know you were going to say that. That's amazing.
I didn't know I was going to say it either.
That was unforeseen.
Unforeseen.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, I guess you don't really know what someone's going to actually say unless it's written down on a piece of paper in front of you and you read it out loud. But again, if it is unexpected, you can describe it as being unforeseen. Like the world, of course, has had many unforeseen disasters, like some typhoons. The damage that they can cause is unforeseen. There were lots of landslides and lots of people were buried alive. It was pretty terrible.
Nobody saw it coming. People did see the typhoon coming, but even then they had no idea just how much damage it would cause. All of this was unforeseen. It couldn't have been predicted. It couldn't have been planned for. So here, reducing mosquito populations. Most people are thinking, great, I hate mosquitoes. Go for it. Reduce those mosquito populations. But if you do, could there be any unforeseen consequences? That is the question for now. Now let's go ahead and start answering this question. But first, let's take a break. Don't go away, though. We'll be back soon.
Mosquitoes, which transport pollen between flowers, play an important role in the life cycle of many plants. They are also an important source of food for a number of different animals, such as birds, bats, frogs, and fish. Accordingly, many people believe that a decrease in mosquito populations may disturb the food chain. The lack of mosquitoes could also create space for an even deadlier insect to thrive, one that could spread disease even more quickly and easily than mosquitoes do. Furthermore, no one is certain of how these altered genes could mutate in the future or what negative effects such changes could bring. Concerns about mutated super mosquitoes have resulted in protests from Florida locals who are distressed by the thought of their home being used as a testing ground for potentially risky technologies.
第二部分我们看到单字 disturb 这个字是动词，指扰乱、干扰、妨碍或使焦虑不安。例如 The constant hunting disturbed the natural order of the forest. 经常狩猎扰乱了森林的自然秩序。或是 Please turn down the music so that you don't disturb the neighbors. 请把音乐转小声，才不会打扰到邻居。再举一个例子 The man's strange behavior really disturbed me. 那名男子的怪异举止让我很不安。再来，我们看到动词 thrive 指茁壮成长、繁荣、兴盛。例如 Josie's flowers thrived because she looked after them properly. Josie 妥善照顾她的花，所以花儿盛开。另外，补充两个相关片语。第一 thrive on something 表示靠着点点点而兴盛。举例来说 The young extreme sports enthusiast thrives on danger and excitement. 那位年轻的极限运动爱好者因危险而刺激而充满活力。第二 thrive off 表示因点点点而成功，兴盛。我们可以说 Fred thrives off the energy and excitement of living in New York. 纽约生活的活力与刺激让 Fred 如鱼得水。接着我们看到单字 mutate， 这个字是动词，指突变、变异。例如 The virus mutated into a drug-resistant form. 那种病毒突变成具有抗药性。最后我们看到动词 distress， 指使担忧、痛苦，像是 The boy distressed his mother when he fell into the river. 当那名男孩跌入河里时，让他的母亲很担忧。另外，这个字也可以当名词，指痛苦、忧虑。例如 Many farm animals were in distress following the thunderstorm. 许多农场中的牲畜在暴风雨后惊慌失措。
Okay, let's get to it. Let's explain the next section of our article. So far, we have been describing mosquitoes as bad. It's as if mosquitoes don't have any business being alive in the world. They are nothing but troublemakers, and we would not miss them at all if we were to get rid of them. But mosquitoes do play a role in the environment. Here it says mosquitoes, which transport pollen between flowers, play an important role in the life cycle of many plants. So there you have it. We've got this pollen that the mosquitoes transport between flowers. Most of us probably thought that bees do this, but it turns out that mosquitoes do it as well. Pollen, of course, I think is 花粉 in Chinese. That's that kind of powdery substance that is in flowers, and you need to spread that around for other plants to grow. It's like a male-female sort of thing. So yeah, they transport the pollen between the flowers, and if they can do that, then it plays an important role in the life cycle of many plants. In other words, if you don't have the pollen going between the plants, all the plants are going to die.
Yeah, there's no fertilization going on. You get a flower that never turns into a fruit. The fruit never develops and never develops seeds. And, well, if you don't have seeds, you can't have new plants, and that's not good. So mosquitoes, apparently, they are real pains to human beings. They are gigantic pests, but they also help to transport pollen. Bees, wasps, birds, I've heard, and also mosquitoes, they transport pollen. So they are somewhat useful to us. They do play an important role in the life cycle of many plants, and that's going to be good in the end for human beings. Anyways, moving on, it says mosquitoes, they are also an important source of food for a number of different animals, such as birds, bats, frogs, and fish. And this, well, I don't buy so much. There are so many mosquitoes out there, especially in a place like the Florida Keys, that apparently these birds, bats, frogs, and fish, they're not really doing their job, okay? If there were so many of these mosquitoes out there, you'd think that these birds, bats, frogs, and fish would be just eating these things left and right, and then there wouldn't be a mosquito problem because they're all being eaten by these birds, bats, frogs, and fish. So I don't buy this so much, not so much. But yes, mosquitoes, I will admit, are good at transporting pollen. So do I totally want to eliminate mosquitoes for that reason? No. Anyways, though, they are saying that here mosquitoes are an important source of food. So accordingly, many people believe that a decrease in mosquito populations may disturb the food chain.
The food chain, indeed, and we need that. Of course, if certain kinds of foods are not fed to other animals, and those animals don't feed other animals and such, then there's problems with the food chain, and then there are crop failures all over the world, and mass starvation, and wars will start over food supplies and water supplies and stuff stuff like that, it isn't going to be a pretty picture in the future. So yeah, we have to keep those birds and those bats and those frogs and those fish fed with those mosquitoes. So yeah, we just can't get rid of those mosquitoes. Otherwise, they will disturb the food chain. So the lack of mosquitoes could also create space for an even deadlier insect to thrive. And that could be one that could spread disease even more quickly and easily than mosquitoes do. So yeah, if you get rid of those mosquitoes, there's kind of an open space there for some other insect to move in and take over and cause even more problems. So yeah, that deadlier insect could thrive. And to thrive just means to survive and live and reproduce and do very well. You might thrive, for example, if you move to Taipei from Zhanghua County or something. You live on the farm or something. You're doing okay, but hey, you're not making a ton of money working on the farm. You could become a computer engineer and thrive in the big city.
There you go. Now let's move on. The next sentence says, furthermore, moreover, no one is certain of how these altered genes could mutate in the future or what negative effects such changes could bring. That is one thing about genes. They do have a tendency to mutate. And we are talking about hundreds of millions of mosquitoes out there. When they start reproducing in large numbers, who knows how their genetic code might just change slightly or mutate.
Yeah, mutate, okay? That just means it changes its molecular structure in some way. People, of course, are always worried about that with viruses, especially the COVID-19 disease or the virus that it is based on. It might mutate. It may change into different forms, and then any medicine or vaccines that we developed to fight the virus will then be useless because they changed their basic structure.
There you go. Their genes mutated and then they mutated as creatures, and sometimes those changes can be bad, and some people are worried about that. Yes, concerns about mutated super mosquitoes have resulted in protests from Florida locals who are distressed by the thought of their home being used as a testing ground for potentially risky technologies. And I believe that people in Monroe County, there in Florida, boy, do they ever like to protest. By the way, if you protest, you publicly assemble somewhere and you complain. You usually tell the government or a person in a position of power that you do not like them or what they are doing.
Right, protest, that's the noun. Protest is the verb, although in America we tend to pronounce the noun and the verb the same way. I'm going to go protest, whereas in other parts of the world you might hear protest. I'm going to protest the government's new farming policy. So yeah, they are distressed there in Florida at the thought of their homes being used as a laboratory for these risky technologies. And if you're distressed, you're kind of depressed, you're kind of scared. You might be distressed, for example, at some bad news. Your pet hamster died, so you're quite distressed about that. And here, these people are distressed because, yeah, who wants to be in a testing ground? Can you just do that someplace else? If this doesn't work out, we're the ones who are going to have to suffer.
Yeah, why do we have to be the lab rats, so to speak? So people, they're distressed by this thought. They don't like this thought. It makes them upset. And it says here that you don't want to be a testing ground for potentially risky technologies. By the way, if something has potential, it can develop into something in the future. So, potentially risky technologies. Technologies that could, or do, I should say, have the potential to do bad stuff in the future. People don't want to be a part of this there in Florida. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break. But when we come back, we'll be wrapping up our article on GM mosquitoes.
Is the promise of saving so many human lives worth these risks? Or are we going down a dangerous path whose consequences may end up putting us in a worse position than we were in when we started?
Okay, let's wrap up our article about GM mosquitoes. We got a question here. Is the promise of saving so many human lives worth these risks? Yeah, is it worth the danger? Is it worth the risk to muck around with genes and stuff like that? Maybe we don't know what we're doing.
Or are we going down a dangerous path whose consequences may end up putting us in a worse position than we were in when we started? Oh, gosh. The questions. They never seem to have a cut-and-dried answer. Anyways, folks, that's it for our lesson on GM mosquitoes. But don't worry, don't fret. The Chinese teacher is waiting in the wings.
Hello， 各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有一个句子写到，根据一些专家的说法，大幅减少蚊子数量可能会有许多意料之外的后果。那文中用到片语介系词 according to， 我们来学习它的不同意思。那第一个呢，就是像课文的用法来表达根据什么所说，依照什么所记载，后面可以接人或是接事物来说明这个来源或是出处，像是 According to the police, the murderer turned himself in yesterday. 根据警方说法，那位杀人凶手昨天自首向警方投案了。那这边要提醒同学们， According to somebody 是指根据某人的说法看法，但我们不能用 according to me， 根据我的说法，我们不能引用自己的看法，所以要表达依我看来，你只要用 in my opinion 就可以了。像是 in my opinion, the book is better than the movie. 就我看来啊，书比电影还好看。第二个呢，我们可以用 according to 来表达依照，像是依照什么的指示。那么这时候 according to 后面通常会接个规则啊，或是说明。举例来说 Danny put the toy together according to the directions on the box. Danny 依照盒子上面的说明呢，把这个玩具组装起来。好，第三个呢，可以用 according to 来表达取决于什么，根据什么什么而定。那么后面常常会接某一种分类评量的标准，像是Those logs are classified according to their lengths. 那些木材是根据它们的长度而分类的。好，课文第二部分写到说，蚊子是许多不同动物的重要食物来源。那么文中是用到 a number of different animals 来表达许多不同动物。这边我们来比较一下 a number of 以及 an amount of 的用法。A number of 是用来修饰可数名词的量，那用法是 a number of 加上复数可数名词，去表达说好几个什么，许多的什么。好，那么 an amount of 则是用来修饰不可数名词的量，像是时间啊、金钱啊、水等等，它的用法是 an amount of 加上不可数名词。好，那在这两个用法当中呢，我们都可以在 amount 和 number 的前方加入形容词，像是 high、large、great 等等来表达大量的什么，或是加入 small 来表达少数的什么、少量的什么。举例来说 a large number of tourists，大量的观光客 a small number of students 少数的学生，这边看到 number of 后面都是接可数名词。好，再来你可以说 a large amount of money 大量的金钱， a small amount of information 少量的资讯，这边我们看到 an amount of 后面都是接不可数名词。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Troublesome.The presence of cell phones in classrooms has become troublesome for many teachers. Disturb. The construction workers disturbed the forest by building an apartment complex nearby. Protest. The citizens gathered in a park near the center of town for a peaceful protest. Distress. The news of her mother's death distressed Lucy greatly. Potentially.Spending a lot of time in the sun without wearing a hat is potentially harmful to the skin.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. Do you think releasing GM mosquitoes in the Florida Keys is a good idea? Why or why not?
Yes, I think it's a great idea. The plan to release GM mosquitoes in Florida Keys is a good one. First, the pest control situation in the Florida Keys is out of control. I know from firsthand experience. Second of all, the methods that they're proposing have had quite good results in other parts of the world. So it's not like the Florida Keys is the first testing ground that has experimented with these GM mosquitoes.
Well, it might be too early to tell, so I think that releasing GM mosquitoes in Florida Keys, Brazil, or any place is a terrible idea because it has never been done before in thousands of years of human evolution, and we just don't know what we're getting into. We're basically screwing around with something that we should let Mother Nature take care of.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you guys enjoyed reading and learning along with us. I am Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.